An empty parts tray. Awesome. That means we're making some good progress. Step number 25 has to do with the servo assembly for the front and rear steer of this quarter scale truck. I've decided to not go with the RC four-wheel drive ones. I thought I was going to use them, but while I'm looking at this, you know, huge tire, all these huge tires and this kit all together, I'm going to go with something a little bit stronger and waterproof. My Savox servo here is an SW1210SG, or the 1210 SG, 277 ounces of torque each. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to come back to this. Step number 26 and step number 28 have to do with putting the short steering link and the long steering link together. And I'd rather do that quickly and then come back. So again, just simply going to be putting the rod ends on these giant set screws. It's really what they are. Spacer. And making sure it's coming together. Second side, spacer. I wonder if that's far enough in. Feels like it is. Let me see here. Yep, plenty tight. Beautiful. For those that are building along with me, this is the small rod for the small steering arm. Don't want to forget my spacer. So making quick work of that. A finished steering arm. Here is a comparison of the short rod to one of my hex bits. This is a full length bit. You can see now how actually huge this steering rod is. The smaller rod being the black ends and the chrome in the middle, or the aluminum color, I suppose. Really, these things are quite giant, but I guess for a quarter scale, they should be. Here we go. People were asking me about this giant steel bumper and saying, why would you put that on there, you know? It looks like it's just going to hinder everything. But apart from protecting it, it's also where you mount the servos. So let's have a look here. The servos that I've chosen, they actually have trivets on them. Trivets are those little trusses, these little triangles right in here that you can see. So I'm going to have to cut these out because, of course, the trivets, when I go to put them in there, are going to prevent them from actually being seated properly. So I'm going to use a small Dremel tool just with a cutting bit on the end, just like that. And pretty much on a low setting. I don't need anything crazy. I'm going to put it up around 3. And of course, when you're using burning hot plastic, wear your glasses. Brand new waterproof servo. Always nice to know, just in case you are out in the snow having fun. Gonna need that screw. Okay, now I'm only going to be placing these on here temporarily. I'll be adjusting them before, like I'll be unscrewing them and taking them off before I turn the machine on for the first time, just so I can center these servos to see if they're proper. A lot of people have said to me in the past, hey, when you move a servo horn like that, you're actually killing the servo on the gears on the inside, creating heat and friction. But you know, after all these years, as long as I've been careful and not be like over fast, I've never had a problem. That's pretty close. Good. ready to go. So here comes that little arm. Now they want you to use a longer screw with a nut on the bottom. Well, these steering horns that I'm using are actually threaded, so I don't need to do that. Now I'll use a shorter screw here, just in case you're following along and wondering what the heck's going on. There we are. Here, everything's looking nice and tidy. So here we go. I have an M4 18 mil screw. It's just going to go into the pre-threaded arm with the small steering arm. Just holding both of the servos together. Not that I need to, of course, that arm is holding it together, but just to, you know, make it easier. Line those up. They pretty much fall into place, which is nice. Going to need, what screws are those? M4 6 mil and a 32 mil and a 20 mil. Wow, okay. Now, at least when you get to this stage in the game, you're starting to run through most of the screws, right? There's less and less, which makes it easier. Let's use my Cow RC pit mat here, the magnetic one. So the noise my drill is making, for those that don't know, is just the clutch slipping, because I have it on a drill setting, but I don't want it to go past a certain power, right? So it's clutch. It also helps to hammer it in just a little bit tighter when it's banging like that. Nice. The next thing I'm looking at is the remote locking and unlocking of the axle differentials. Come on in here and have a look. This is, focus. This is a small arm that moves back and forth for the locking mechanism. And earlier when we were building this back motor plate, you watched me put on this small servo mount. Well, now is the time to use it. But first, I'm gonna have to take out this small link mount just so I can slide the servo in there properly. Bring out the servo. Beautiful. This one goes back in place, of course. So I tightened down the servo, and I am using the heavy duty servo horn for the Futaba type on the servo. And the reason I'm not using the other servo horn is simply because it's too long. And this actually has to have quite a reach, but you don't want it to be hitting on the inside here. So this is the reason why I chose this one. And ta-da, total clearance, right? So let's have a look at that. Put it on the outside. Can I get that washer in there? I can. Tighten it up. Back you guys up a bit. M310 on the end. Now you may be asking me about distance. How did I know how long this is going to be? It does not say in the book. I just kind of went with my gut instinct. We'll see. If I need to adjust it, of course I will. Oh, looks like I need to adjust the tool I'm using. Doctor. Wonderful. Now we're getting the idea. So as it turns and comes in this way, it's locking or unlocking. I'm not sure which one yet, but that's the premise of what's going on there. Okay, what's next? Oh, look at that. Next, I'm going to be using these M4 screws. One is a 32 millimeter, the other is a 20 millimeter. Going to use the 32 on the left-hand side. That's the way it shows in the book, but I'm going to run it through the small steering arm first, then the long steering arm, and then straight into the threaded spindle here. Come on, get on there. Oops. I don't want to cross thread anything at this point, that's for darn sure. There we are. Now the steering is set up. Well, generally, I still have to go in here and unhook the steering horns, and I'll just undo that later. But, you know, for building's sake and moving the project along, there you go. Now the steering is set up. Wow. That's going to have some power to the steering. I think I'm going to need a proper BEC, which is going to be a voltage regulator, but that's okay. I've got one here in the shop. Okay, so who remembers these shocks? These are the larger shocks that I unboxed in the first video. It's time to put them onto the lower links and the cantilever arm. So I'm going to need, what's the screw size? It looks like an M318 with a 5 mil spacer. So I need 2 M318s. Looking nice. Finally hooking up the outside suspension. Yeah, getting exciting, coming together. Getting the second one in place here. I need that spacer. Careful not to cross thread anything as it goes into the chassis. All right, this side is tight. Everything's good. Now I just have these 4 links I want to hook up to that axle I just built. Moving it into place. Coming together quick. So 3 servos there. It's a very exciting time, of course. I want to make sure I get this right though. So these lower links mount up to that link hanger I did earlier. That's going to be an M4 bolt, I'm sure. Let's see here. I'm way up now on step number 35. It's an M4 25 mil. Just gonna line that up properly. Sorry about the giant shadow in the way. There we are. On to the other side, same thing. Just getting the middle link done here. I'll come back, tighten that up when I'm sure everything's in place. Okay, so I've gone ahead and off camera. It was just easier for me to do with 2 hands and get in there without having to worry about the lens seeing everything. I went in, put an M4 40 millimeter screw in here, as well as a nut on the other side. And I went and I slid this into place. Now there's very small tolerances here, right? So you gotta play with it a little bit, get it in there. I was able to. The thing that you gotta do here, this is important for me to show if you do build, is to undo this large screw. Look at that, that's a monster by itself. Just so you can slide the 20 mil, is it? Just gonna confirm. 25 mil actually, with a nut on the end. So I needed 2 25 mils, one for either side. There we go. And return it. Sure to do the other side, same thing. I've got both sides complete now, nice and solid. The links are set up, yes. Okay, let's take these servo wires. I'm actually going to zip tie them just to keep them nicely out of the way, but still organized. I'm leaving enough slack just for the suspension. There we are. And keeping the servo wires bunched together in an orderly fashion so I know which servo's which when I'm plugging in the receiver later. And right about there, perfect. Nice and tidy, just the way I like it. Well, with these servo wires bundled up and the servos in place, the suspension links in place, I can focus on the motor wires and ESC in the next video. Here we go, outside shocks, 1, 2, inside shocks, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like a little dance spell, and look at the magic right here. I put in some extra hours because I know you guys have been waiting very patiently during this build to see what this looks like. So I did do extra work before this video, so I knew how it went all together, and so I could come in and give you guys a good show at the end. So I still have lots to do. That's okay. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the series. I'll keep up building this so you guys can have a good look at it soon enough, I hope. Outside, it's very snowy right now, but I think this will certainly be able to hold its own. Anyway, thanks a lot. Hopefully you guys are subscribed. You won't miss a thing on RC Adventures, and we'll see you in the next episode. Get outside and have some fun with RC. Bye.